church. We are so thankful that you're here today. We are one church that meets in multiple locations, and maybe you're joining us from the Ossian campus. We just want to give a shout out to you. Maybe you are here in the worship center. We want to give a welcome, a shout out to you. Maybe you are getting that last minute vacation in, or you're elsewhere today and you're streaming us, or you're checking us out online. We just want to welcome you into the service as we continue in this series called Questions That Jesus Asked. Well, I want to give you just a couple of updates as to what has been taking place. First of all, just an update on our building here at the Bluffton campus. If you've been paying any attention, there have been footers that have been dug. We have had the first initial footer that has been poured. Block wall is supposed to begin this week, and so we are so excited about these next steps. We have our building permits. We are legit. We're moving forward, and so continue to pray. Thank you for your prayers in that as we continue to make these steps forward in actually beginning this process. We will also, within the next couple of months, begin the process of purchasing our Ossian campus as well, and so be praying for us as we make those initial steps into making that a reality as well. Thank you for your generosity along the way in helping this happen, as you've been giving to our One Matters initiative and so many other ways. Thank you for that. Just a couple other updates that I want to share with you. We welcomed into our staff extended family Kit Evangeline, who was born to Tim and Laura Sipe on Friday. Little girl weighing in, I mean, we've got to have the details, right? 6 pounds, 12 ounces, and so she is being welcomed by siblings and a family that absolutely loves her. One other thing, just to let you know, this next Sunday night, we are going to be having a prayer, worship, baptism gathering here at the Bluffton campus, and we'd love to have you be a part of that. At 6 o'clock, there are details in your notes, Hope Notes, and also in the bulletin. If you have not taken the step of going public with your faith through baptism, we'd love to have you do that. You can follow those steps as well in there. And so we're excited about, as we anticipate, just God's presence as we come together to worship. As Pastor Kent mentioned last week, we would really continue to covet your prayers from our staff. As Pastor Kent and I were talking late last week, a week ago, we have been hit pretty hard as a staff in just multiple different ways. And so we so appreciate your prayers. Our staff and their families so appreciate your prayers, and keep praying. Keep praying. We're not through the woods yet, and there's been some good movement in several of the areas, but we're not out of the woods yet. One quick update that I do want to give on Carla. Thank you for your prayers for her. We were able to finally get her in for emergency surgery midweek this week for total reverse shoulder replacement. So, I mean, it's like the severest type of shoulder surgery you can have. She is at home in recovery, and I would ask you to pray for her pain management. She's still ranging between a 7 and a 10. Depending on the time of day and everything. And so pray for her recovery. More than that, pray for her patience with me. All right? I mean, the next several weeks, she is depending on me, which I am like way underqualified to take on this role. I mean, helping her get dressed, combing her hair out, which I've learned is not the same as brushing it, okay? There's a total, I'm like, wow, your mom really had rough go of it when you were young. Doing laundry, like where the choices are warm, cold, a pile of light clothes that look dark to me, and meals, which if left to me, frozen meals are my specialty, okay? I mean, frozen pizza, whatever gourmet dinner can come out of a little box above our oven, called the microwave. I mean, that's my specialties, okay? And she has been narrating instructions from the Lazy Boy, and I'm sure she's finding out what I've known to be true for over 42 years. And that is, I am wildly underqualified, and I sure married way up. So please pray for her. We do appreciate your prayers. I mean, there have been many of you who have already brought food in or had it delivered, and we are so grateful for your care for us. And Carla has never been so glad to see a home-cooked meal. And honestly, neither have I, all right? And so thank you. So over the last couple of weeks, Pastor Chris and then Pastor Kent just shared in there the questions that they were walking through, questions that Jesus asked. And I'm so grateful how God used them. If you weren't here, I really want to encourage you to go back and watch those, listen to those. But today we're going to be going into Mark chapter 8, and we're going to be looking at another question that Jesus asked. And before we get to the text, can I just ask you, how is reentry going? Some of you are like, what? Like, how is reentry going? I mean, because I know where some of you are now. I mean, maybe you're watching this online and your suitcases are barely unpacked. You have been gone for the summer. You've been running all over the place, and you've had a filled summer, and it's very possible that your kids have started back to practice already. If not, it's happening this week, and they're about to. I mean, your calendar is starting to fill back up again, and in the white space that maybe you had 3 weeks ago is just being erased, and it's filling up like as if nothing ever happened. I saw on the big screen today coming into our Bluffton campus, Picture Day is now announced at schools, and I mean, getting ready. I mean, it is all coming back full force. And somewhere underneath that list of supplies for school or fall sports schedule or the okay, everything's back to normal again feeling, there is a decision that's being made. And it's a decision that we make quietly every single day without even noticing that we're making this decision. You're deciding what gets your life for the rest of this year. Every single moment. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in small, incremental ways. We're making that decision. What you say yes to, what you build your schedule around, what you say no to, what you protect, what you'd protect if you had to. I mean, we're making those decisions. And Jesus asked this question in Mark chapter 8 that I think is aimed directly at that decision. Not at your theology, but at your calendar. And so we're going to pick up in Mark chapter 8, verse 36, where he asks this question: what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? And I want you to actually do the math for a second, because Jesus isn't being poetic here. I mean, this is a mathematic equation that Jesus is asking us to do. He's asking us to run a number. Everything, the world, every house, every account, every promotion, every trophy that we've ever accumulated, every relationship that we've ever made, and you take a good look at it all in one column and add it all up in one column against your soul, your one and only soul, in the other column. And Jesus says, even if you won everything in the one column, even if you just knocked it out of the park in the one column, the trade would still be insane if you traded that against your soul. You would still have made the worst deal in all of history if you trade your soul for that. That's not a metaphor. That's arithmetic. It's arithmetic. Truth be told, most of us are really terrible at this kind of math. Because this kind of math is made in every decision that we make all the way along, every single moment of every single day. Nobody asks us to ever do this kind of arithmetic out loud. And so we're going to do it out loud. Because here's what I think happens to most of us, and I'm including myself in this, all right? We don't wake up one day and decide that we're going to trade our soul for the world. Like, we don't just go, hey, today I'm going to trade my soul for the world. No, we don't do that. Nobody does that. Nobody signs a contract like that. But what actually happens is smaller and slower in much more reasonable sound bites. It's the series of small trades, each one which seems fine and right in the moment. You tell yourself, you know what, it's just a season. It's just until the kids get through this stage. It's just till the business stabilizes. It's just one more year of this kind of schedule that's eating you alive, because after that, I mean, things are going to slow down, right? Things are going to be better. You see, nobody loses their soul all at once. They trade it away a little at a time. A little at a time. Jesus tells us a story in Luke chapter 12 that I want to put right next to this question that he asks in Luke chapter, that he asks in the question that we're asking today. And there's this rich man that is a good farmer, by the way. I mean, he's not a villain. He has a harvest that's so plentiful that he doesn't have anywhere to put it. And so, we call him Mr. Barnes, right? He had to build more barns. And so he does what every single one of us would do in that situation. I mean, we build bigger barns. Let me give you a quick little bit of context as to that story. I mean, the story begins with two brothers who are fighting over an inheritance, right? And then one comes and tries to pose Jesus the question to get him to answer, like, talk my dad into this. Like, tell my brother that he just needs to let this go. And they want Jesus to settle it, but Jesus isn't going to take the case. In fact, he goes into this parable that he tells, and he tells the whole crowd this: watch out, guard against this. Guard yourself against every kind of greed. And so, yes, the story is about money, which honestly, we don't like to talk about money. Like, some of you already went and turned your hearing aids off. You turned your ears off because money was just mentioned, and we don't like to talk about money. It is about money, but it's about more than just money. He's talking about barns, and he's talking about money, but he's talking about more than that. He's talking about what owns us. And don't let the money part let you off the hook, like, well, that I don't have that issue. I mean, because the barns were never about barns, and the money really was never about money. It's about more. It's about what we trade our soul for. And so Jesus is talking about whatever we build so that we feel safe and secure for our future. And for some of you, that's the bank account. For some of you, it's whatever you see in your retirement account. For others, it's a body that still works the way it used to, right? I mean, it's the kid's future. It's a retirement date that you've already circled and you're making your way towards. It's a different barn, but it's the same fool's math. And Jesus gets to the heart of it. Listen to how he talks to himself. This is the man with the barns, Mr. Barnes. He talks to himself this way. He says, I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. You just quickly count how many times my shows up in this. He's like, hey, me, I, he's focused on himself. I mean, all in this sentence. And this is a man who's having a conversation with no one but himself. And he's already written his future out. And God interrupts him with a line that should stop every one of us in our tracks. You fool, This very night, your life will be demanded from you. And so here's the detail that gets me every single time I read this passage. God doesn't call him a fool for being successful. God doesn't call him a fool for planning. He calls him a fool because he ran his whole life, every decision, every barn, every plan for the next 20 plus years without ever asking the one question that actually mattered most. The question? Who am I building it for? Who am I building it for? Let me ask you, all your plans in your life, everything that you are trying to accomplish in your life, who are you building it for? Who are you building it for? He never asks the question. Instead, listen to how he talks to himself. He's managing his soul like he's managing his 401k. Set it, forget it, enjoy the benefits, right? Enjoy the returns. And that same night, God answers him back. This very night, your soul will be demanded from you. Here's what we miss if we never read it in the English translation. That word life is the same word that Jesus uses in Mark chapter 8 for soul, psyche. And so we can read it again like this, knowing this, we can read it this way. This night, your soul will be demanded from you. And we're like, whoa, we're talking about barns. We're talking about future. We're talking about planning. We're talking about all these things. The very thing he never once brought to God is exactly the thing that God came to collect. His soul. What can anyone give in exchange for the soul? I mean, he had an answer for every other question in his life, but he never had an answer for that one question. His soul. Now, he wasn't a bad man. I mean, he was a normal man. He was doing normal things, but never once did he run the math. I mean, I want to be honest with you about something. I've been in ministry for over 3 decades now, and I'm not proud of it. I have done this. I've done the same thing. I mean, more than once in different areas of my ministry, my life, seasons when I was doing ministry more for my accolades or for fame and glory or for recognition or even applause. And I've done this to the detriment of my family at times. And there have been several times along the journey that God has had to get my attention in some pretty significant ways. So here's where we are. Most of us are somewhere in the middle of 100 small trades right now, telling ourselves that this is just a season and we're just making this decision now. And what I want to do in our time together today is I want to introduce you to a couple who actually ran this calculation. I want you to hear how they answered it. I'm going to invite Marty and Jill Lehman to join me on stage. They serve in Southeast Asia as missionaries. As many of you know, Pastor Eric and I had the opportunity to spend some time with them back in April, and they are Hope Sent missionaries. I mean, they are some of our own, and we're so thankful that you are here, and we call you missionary partners, and it's just so great to have you guys here. Thank you for saying yes, even though I twisted your arms like crazily, all right?
No problem.
Okay, yeah, so put them on the spot. So you said yes to go serve as missionaries, and there were things that you had to trade off to do that. I'd love to hear what the trade-offs were.
Well, we were pretty content with the way our lives were, and we had our house and 2 kids at the time and our careers. I was working at a behavioral home for troubled youth, and Jill was a sign language interpreter. And yeah, we were established, the safety net of family and children, or family and friends around us, and church. And definitely comfortable where we were. Kind of living the American dream kind of life.
Yeah, that's great. So, Jill, you have anything for, okay. So, one of the things that so intrigued me, and Jill, I mean, I had heard your story a little bit before, but we spent several hours on a bus, like a lot of hours on a bus, right? And one of the questions I asked you on there was about your calling, and you laughed and snickered, and I'm like, well, what's up with that? And Marty also filled that in a little bit more, but your calling, you said, wasn't really a calling, it was just this statement, why not? And that struck me in such a powerful way. I mean, where did that come from? I mean, was it fast? Was it slow? I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, it definitely was not fast. It took some years. So, like I said, we had careers, kids, etc. We were involved in church, but we'd be the first to admit during those times we weren't any different than the world. And so God began to stir in both our hearts kind of at the same time for something more. And so we got involved more at Hope in small groups, and one of the first small groups we were involved in was going through the book Radical by David Platt. If you don't know anything about that book, he pushes back against Christians pursuing the American dream and kind of flips it on its head. And so for us, it just became more about what can we do for his kingdom and less for our kingdom and what we're working towards. And also during that small group, there was a couple in our small group who was wrestling with that question, and they shared with us how they were going to sell their home, be a part of New Tribes training. At the time, that's what it was called. It's now Ethnos 360, and go do this tribal church planting thing in a remote location, learning the language, culture, and they're very excited about it. We walked away from that small group really excited for them. We actually got in our car. We're driving back to our house in Fort Wayne, and we were like, man, that is so cool. We looked at each other and said, but we're never gonna do this, right? So God definitely had some more growing and more pushing and prodding for us. And so through numbers of small groups here at Hope and different things, we just started becoming more restless and was kind of like, what can we do for his kingdom? But we didn't know where to start.
So this was back around 2014, and around that time, we just decided to take the year to pray intentionally. Like, let's just walk through the open doors that God puts before us. And we also started taking a 6-month course called Perspectives, which is a course on missions. Different churches will offer it, and we highly recommend it. But we must warn you, they say that it ruins you for the ordinary. And for us, it was very true because we kept hearing about unreached people groups. 40% of the world is still considered unreached, meaning they don't have the Bible in their language and they don't have enough Christians around them. That's 3 billion people. And it's not that they chose to reject God, they don't even know about him. And that's just crazy in this day and age. And so we kept hearing about these statistics, and our hearts were just burdened. We're like, we have Bibles on resources on, we have so much at our disposal, and there's people that are dying apart from Christ without that. And so we were like, maybe we should do something, maybe we should get involved. And it was around this time that a couple from our church, the Bradleys, said they were gonna go visit New Tribes Missions Training Center. They were having a Catch the Vision weekend where we could learn about what they do. And I was like, no, thank you, because everybody who does that becomes a missionary. And I wasn't ready to do that yet. But we had been praying that God would open doors. So we're like, okay, God, we'll go through this door. And we went to the weekend, hadn't even sat in on a class, and we both looked at each other, and that's when we said, why not? Not because we're like super qualified or like the best missionaries or the missionary candidates, but because we know that God says to go to the ends of the earth, and we were willing to go, so why wouldn't we go? But like Marty had said in the previous question, we had a lot of why nots. We had a house and careers, and we didn't have a lot of money for training. And so I wrote in that prayer journal, okay, God, here's the obstacles. Here's what you have to knock down in order for us to be able to do what we think you're calling us to do. And one by one, all of those obstacles got knocked out. We sold our house. We were able to start raising support. We sold all our belongings. And that following fall, when we left for the training, we had enough finances for 1 semester. And it's a 4-year training. So we were just like, okay, God, we believe that you're calling us here. So we're just going to take one day at a time. We don't know about tomorrow or the next day or the next year, but we know that you're being faithful with today. So we're just going to be faithful with today too. And it's been so amazing to look back now on the last 12 years and seeing the way he's provided.
So you've talked about a lot of the different things that were hard, but what's the hardest part of that trade? Because that was a trade. What's the hardest part of the trade that nobody warned you about?
I think the hardest part for us is seeing, like, we feel confident. We knew from the get-go that this was where God was leading us. And so it was easy to step forward, but we didn't know what kind of grief that would cause for our loved ones that we were leaving behind, for our family and friends. And I think one of the biggest things too is like our kids, our 3 girls, they are sacrificing too by this, and this wasn't their choice necessarily. We believe it's God's choice for them, but so they're giving up, normal American life and baseball seasons and friendships that continue on. Every time we come back, they're kind of figuring out where they fit in again. And that's really hard as a mom to watch, and as a mom and dad to watch and see them kind of process through that. But we trust that, if God called us to this, he called Elsie and Jovi and Maisie to this too, and we know he'll be faithful.
That's great. Thank you. One of the things that you shared with us, with Pastor Eric and I, when we were with you, is you talked about the uniqueness of the work with the unreached people groups, but also the poorly reached. And that really struck me, because we hear so much about the unreached, but the poorly reached was just a whole new category to me. And I'd love to have you kind of share that. Work, and especially in the interior villages and so on and so forth.
Yeah, one thing that is becoming clear kind of on a global scale is just the effect of historical missions. So there's been lots of methodologies over the years, and we are seeing some of those effects now. So like maybe a missionary came in speaking a message through an interpreter in the national language, and then ask people to receive Jesus. And so, it just becomes interesting because, he kind of just leaves them after that. And then what we are seeing is that in these places, like, so we have missionaries that are more interior, and they go, we can see that there might be a church nearby in the presence, and it becomes a form. And so as the missionaries learn the language and get to know the culture, they can begin to question what's going on in these churches. And they're finding out that Jesus isn't the way, the truth, and the life like we know it to be. It's just another spirit or thing they have to appease, because they're a very animistic culture, so they syncretize it. And that just means that Jesus becomes another thing they have to appease amongst, going to the witch doctor or saying their incantations as they pass by this tree to appease some spirit. And so we would say they are poorly reached. And what we love about Ethnos is that they focus and want a clear presentation of the gospel. So they spend years learning the language and culture so that the gospel can be presented clearly. And then they're not going to just leave it there. We also want thriving churches. And so, it's just super exciting that we get to be a part of that.
Yeah, just to add to that. So like these people that would say they believe in Jesus, like he's saying, like when you look at how it plays out in their lives, it's not always accurate, or he's just another thing. And so we see that as a great need for discipleship in our area. Like, sure they might believe in Jesus or have heard of him, but they don't really understand what it means to follow him and him alone, and that he is the way, the truth, and the life, like Marty said. And especially with our youth, because a lot of the young kids in our country, when they have to go to middle school or high school, they have to come out to the big city and leave their parents in the village, and they're coming out to the big city and they have their smartphones and social media and all these things like pulling at their attention, and they really are in desperate need of that discipleship that maybe didn't happen in their homes or their villages. And so our team is specifically really trying to be focused with the youth there and just being a presence and teaching them, Jesus isn't just one God, he's the God, and he's worth serving. So.
Yeah, and just, in this, one of the things that struck me so big in this was just seeing it real time when we went to the one interior village. There was actually a church in this village, not a couple hundred people, right, in the village, church, but I think you would share there were only 3 known believers. And they had been believers for 30 plus years, but that is where it stayed. And so much, much more work yet to be done. So I have one more question, and this one, I don't want you to answer to me. I want you to answer to everyone who's here, and I want you to share, like everybody here is sitting with a why not. We don't know exactly what that is, but we all have a why not to one degree or another. And for those who may be really, really wrestling with a why not, like God's been talking to them. We've been praying really hard that God would send people from Hope Church again into vocational ministry, 20 by 2030, and we're on our way, but we know that there are people still sitting here in these seats or maybe watching online that still have to wrestle with that, and God's been talking to them. Maybe it's not necessarily Southeast Asia, but it's something that God's asking them, and he's looking for an answer. What would you say to them?
Yeah, we would say that you won't regret it. You won't ever regret stepping out in faith, but that doesn't mean that it will always be easy either. We've gone through a lot in this course over the last 12 years, Marty's parents both passing away, and then dealing with, whether we were going to have the finances to be able to go, and then serving over there and getting things like dengue fever and having kids be sick far from medical care, and then COVID happening and not knowing if the U.S. Embassy was sending out emails like, get out now, this is the last flight, and we're like, we're staying, So just those kinds of things were really scary and hard at the time, but looking back, we feel like we've come to know him in a more intimate way, and we can trust him more. I used to be a person that was like, I need a backup plan for my backup plan and a safety net for that backup plan. And it was like God just needed to strip all that away from us and just say, do you really trust me? And so putting ourselves out there and seeing him provide again and again has just been such a faith builder.
Yeah, like Jill mentioned earlier, like we took that one step, and then our motto became just one day at a time. So if you could just think of it as one day at a time, it'll be just very easy to get through, because it's just one day. If I can do one day trusting God, I can do another, and they just keep adding up. Another thing, maybe you're sitting there and you just don't know what's next. I would challenge you to maybe look into a perspectives course or seek other options, or even simple things like just go next door to your neighbor and start up a conversation. Ask them how they're doing, because you don't have to just go across the world. You can just go across the street or right next door and start up a lovely conversation with somebody, getting to know them better. So,
Thank you so much. I know that I'm going to ask you a question before we're done. I'm going to ask how we can pray for you, but how can we support you, pray for you? Just so everyone here knows, Maisie broke her wrist last night, late yesterday, and so she's going to have to be put into a cast early this next week. And so, just the fun continues. Anyone connected to Hope Church, right? And so, so how could we be praying for you? And when do you return back to Southeast Asia?
So we have about 3 weeks left here in the country, and then we'll be going back for Elsie's final 2 years of high school, which is crazy. So she's going to be starting at a hybrid international school this fall, meaning she will be going to the capital city 1 week out of every month and be learning with other missionary kids, doing school, doing fun activities like intramurals and things that she misses out on when she's homeschooling. And then the other 3 weeks out of the month, she'll be with us. So she'll be traveling back and forth, and it's going to complicate our lives a little bit, but we're really excited for this opportunity for her. So she would need prayers for that. We're always looking for more prayer and financial partners. And just pray for our family in the next 3 weeks. It's always stressful packing up everything once again, even though we've done it a million times. You'd think we'd be used to it by now. But just pray for patience and wisdom and all those things. Yeah. And also we have a little table set up if you want to stop by and grab a prayer card.
Well, it was such a joy and blessing to be with you in April. And we have stories that are about me that we'll never share anywhere, right? So they kind of it happened on the mission field.
What happens in Asia Pacific stays in Asia Pacific.
Yes, and so it's just a stay there. But we're just so thankful for you being a part of our family and an extension of the ministry we do here. And so can I pray for you? Will you join us in prayer? Father, I thank you so much for Marty and Jill and their girls. I thank you, Lord, for them asking and answering the question, why not? And Father, I pray that as they take through these final steps before they return for the next 2 years, Lord, that you would be with the doctors as they set the wrist and put it into place for Maisie, and Father, as they navigate the final goodbyes and the packing and then re-entry again, I pray that you would go before them, Lord, and may this just be a tremendous season in front of them, filled with amazing opportunities. I thank you so much for them and their family. It's in your name we ask these things. Amen. Can we thank them? Can we just thank them? Thank you. So you just heard two people answer a question that the rich man never got around to asking or answering. He had a barn full of answers, right? I mean, he knew where he was going. He knew exactly what was going to happen with his grain, his land, his future, all his years. He had this plan for all of those things, except the one thing that mattered the most. And that was, what has he given his life to? It's the question that every one of us has to answer. What are we giving our life to? You see, the better question was always sitting right there. Why not? Why not? Why not do what God wants us to do? The whole hinge of this message is, what good is it to gain the whole world and yet lose your soul? Like, the better question was right there in front of him the whole time, and most of us never take the time to answer that for ourselves. Why not? What is God asking us for? Why not? And Marty and Jill just looked at it. They turned around from a life that they had been building here, and they gave their life fully. The house, the career, the future, the track of their version of normal, to allowing God to write the story. And he's still writing the story. And only eternity is going to tell the return on the investment that they're making, because they're building his kingdom right now. And let me ask you, how are you building his kingdom right now? You know, so often we focus on the cost, but they looked at what it was worth. And that's really what we have to do as individuals. And it's not because they're more spiritual than you or I. I mean, they didn't pretend it was easy. I mean, you could hear that. I mean, that's so evident in their story. But somewhere in that decision process, they did the arithmetic that Jesus is asking all of us to make. And the number came out different than they expected it to. And they said, we're going to do this with the remainder of our life. Losing what they thought they needed didn't cost them their life. It actually gave them so much more. And that's the trade that God's asking for each one of us to make. Mark 8:35, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and the gospel will save it. So here's what I want to do with the last couple of moments that we have together. I want you to name the thing, the one thing that you're protecting more than following Jesus. What's the one thing you're protecting more than following Jesus? And I don't want this to be something that you'd say to your small group, or like the prettied up version. I want the raw version. What is the actual thing? What's the barn you're building right now that you've told yourself is temporary or is reasonable or it's just in this season? The schedule, the account, the relationship, the plan you've built your whole identity around. What is the one thing that if Jesus asked you to put that on the table, you would feel your stomach drop? You know what it is before I even said the sentence. What is it? I want you to hold it up in front of Jesus and ask him the question that the rich man never got around to asking. Who am I building this for? Who am I building this for? And then ask a follow-up. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? You see, the truth is most of us protect things that aren't bad. I mean, the man's barns weren't bad. I mean, his richness was not bad. I mean, careers aren't sinful. I mean, comfort isn't sinful. But the question is that we never ask the deeper life story question. The question is it worth your soul? Are those things worth your soul? And it's very difficult to answer that question. It's very different for each one of us when we ask that question for ourselves. Here's what I want you to do. What I want you to not miss. This isn't a burden that Jesus is loading onto your back to make your life harder. It's often what we think. He's just trying to make my life more difficult, harder. You see, the cross was never the price of admission for a smaller life. It was to a greater life and to greater impact. And it's the only door that will never, ever expire. Everything else that we could build, every barn, every version of make it or made it, has an expiration date stamped on it. Every one of us has an expiration date stamped on us. But what's going to carry on to the future for eternity? What is your why not? What is God asking of you? Is it sharing your faith with a neighbor or a coworker? Maybe it's engaging more deeply with your one, that one person that you're building a relationship with so that one day they might come to know Jesus Christ and become a follower. Or maybe it's in your giving. I mean, let me ask you just honestly, does your giving, does your generosity cost you anything? Does it take faith to give what you're giving? What is the thing that God is asking of you that you've been running the wrong math on and telling yourself it just costs too much? It's not worth it. When the truth is the only investment in this whole life that's ever going to last beyond us is eternal. You don't have to have it resolved today, but I do want to encourage you to wrestle with it. And here's going to be my prayer, that the Holy Spirit will be the hound of heaven that will stay on your trail as you wrestle with it. Because every one of us has to answer that question. You see, what I want to caution you against is most often we hear a message like this, we hear a challenge like this, and then we go stuff it in the barn someplace. Don't do that. Don't put it in the barn. Bring it honestly to Jesus and ask him the question, why not? What do you want me to trade so my soul can be safe with you? That you won't demand my soul over my possessions. God already knows what you're protecting. And here's what I also know. The Holy Spirit will gently walk you through that as you answer it. Will you pray with me? Father, I thank you for Marty and Jill. I thank you for your teaching, Jesus. Today was hard. It's a hard question to ask. Yet every one of us wrestles with it. Every one of us is challenged by it. And I pray, Lord, that we would all individually come to the point of answering it and wrestling with it. And Father, I thank you for what you're going to do in our midst and in the days and weeks to come. We continue to pray for Marty and Jill as they make their final plans before they return to Southeast Asia. And Father, I pray for each person in each room, in each venue, those online, as they wrestle with this question, Lord. Call us to something greater, I pray. Continue to wow us with your presence. Continue to guide us by your Spirit. It's in your name, everybody said. Amen.